What's up guys, it's Tom here and welcome to my 2019-2020 Premier League predictions video. So excited for this video, and make sure to join my fantasy football league. There is a code to join, I will put it here. Make sure to join because I will do prizes for the top 3 players of my fantasy private league on the Fantasy Premier League website. And it's very difficult to predict the Premier League table, but every season we try to do it. So leave your predictions in the comments below, and if you don't want to type out all 20 teams, just predict the top 6 and who gets relegated, and maybe a surprise package of yours. Let me know in the comments below. So I will go from 20th up to 1st, so make sure to watch the video until the end. I will try to cover every team. So Sheffield United, in my opinion, will be the 20th team. They were a surprise promotion, so that's one of the reasons why I put them as the bottom table side, because Leeds United almost all season were primed to get promoted, and in the end Sheffield United got promoted. And they made some good signings. Oliver McBurney is the one that stands out because he cost £19 million and he comes from a club that I follow pretty closely, Swansea City. He is their top scorer, very big talent. 23 years old, Scottish striker, and English as well. So Oliver McBurney will probably score a few goals in the Premier League, but he didn't start in the first week. Lys Mousset from Bournemouth also came in. I don't really know a lot about Sheffield United, but it looks like put together a team which could compete in the Premier League, but their defense I don't think holds up in the top division. And yeah, Callum Robinson and Oliver McBurney, these two strikers, they are scoring goals in the Championship, but I think they will struggle to score enough goals in the Premier League. That's why I put them in 20th place. In 19th place, I put Brighton. I think Brighton really struggled in the second half of the season. That's why they sacked their manager, and I think they will struggle to stay up, even though they made some decent signings. Leandro Trossard from Genk is a decent signing for 20 million. They signed Adam Webster from Bristol for 22 million. They signed also Neo Maupay from Brentford for 22 million. But these are Championship players, and Brighton already had a squad which had a lot to be desired, but good signing is Aaron Moy, who is a decent midfielder, but I think they won't score enough goals to stay up in the Premier League, and their defense didn't really get stronger, so that's why I have them in 19th place. The last team to get relegated is Norwich City, in my opinion, who got promoted, but they didn't spend a lot of money. They signed Farman on loan, and they signed Sam Byram from West Ham and other players. Durmich from Mönchengladbach is a good transfer, but they didn't really sign a really decent player. Pukki will score probably quite a few goals in the Premier League. He scored at Liverpool on the first day, but he scored 29 goals in the Championship, and I think he will struggle to replicate that. Also, Norwich City's defense I don't think holds up in the Premier League, so I think they will leak a lot of goals, they will concede a lot of goals. The third promoted team is Aston Villa, and they will stay up in my opinion. They will finish in 17th place. They spent an incredible amount of money, 148 million euros, that's like 130 million pounds. Their biggest transfer is Wesley from Bruges for 25 million, but they signed Tyrone Mings, Matt Target, Nakamba, Trezeguet from Turkish side, El Ghazi from Lille, who was on loan last season, Douglas Luiz from Man City, and also they had a pretty decent team in the Championship, and I think that this will be a good season for Aston Villa. Maybe defensively John Terry can organize them, Aston Villa's assistant manager, the former Chelsea player, Chelsea legend, and I think Aston Villa have probably a little bit of a better defense than Norwich and Sheffield United, and also going forward I think they have more goal threat with these investments. I mean, Wesley from Club Brugge, I expect him to score a few goals in the Premier League during the season. So I just have a feeling Aston Villa are a big club. I consider them a big club. They won the Champions League, the European club. In 16th place I have Burnley. They struggled last season after finishing 7th in the Premier League 2 seasons ago and getting into the Europa League. They failed to make the group stage, and Sean Dyche got them on a good run at the end of the season to stay up, and I think they will struggle again, but they will stay up. I think that they have a Premier League quality, especially Ashley Barnes, Wood, and also they signed Jay Rodriguez from West Brom, and Rodriguez is a very good goal scorer. He scored quite a few goals for West Brom. He's Premier League proven as well, so that will help them probably score enough goals to stay in the Premier League. And Burnley defensively can be very solid, especially at home. They don't concede a lot of goals. They also signed Drinkwater from Chelsea on loan, which is a good transfer. Drinkwater looks to revive his career, and Eric Peters from Stoke City is also a decent defender. In 15th place I have Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace almost lost their biggest player, Wilfried Zaha. He even put in a transfer request at the end of the transfer window to force through a move. Zaha had offers from Man United and Everton, but in the end Crystal Palace rejected all offers, and I think that's key to them staying up, because Wilfried Zaha alone can keep up a bottom 10 side in the Premier League with his goals and his assists. They also signed James McCarthy from Everton, who is a decent player. Jordan Ayew came in from Swansea after his loan spell, and also they signed Victor Camarasa. Sorry, they got him on loan from Real Betis, who is a very, very decent signing. And Gary Cahill, the experienced former Chelsea player, on a free transfer. So Crystal Palace maybe got a little bit stronger. A big loss, of course, for them is Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who was their regular right back. But I think they will be fine and they will stay up. Maybe even finish higher than 15th, but it's very difficult to separate the bottom 10 sides. There is not a lot between these sides, to be honest. In 14th place I put Southampton, who also had a decent season last season. They weren't really in danger of getting relegated, and now they signed Danny Ings permanently for 22 million from Liverpool. They also signed a very talented young English striker, Che Adams, who scored quite a few goals for Birmingham in the Championship for 16 million. It will be interesting how he can adapt to the Premier League, because in the Championship he was a good striker, but in the Premier League you know that it's a lot more difficult. They also signed Djenepro from Standard Liège. I don't know a lot about him, but for 15 million he must be a decent player as well. And Southampton have a decent defense, and now with Danny Ings I think they have a regular goal scorer. They sold Matt Targett to Aston Villa though for 50 million, which is a loss for them. And they also sold Charlie Austin. He went to West Brom for just 4 million. I don't get this transfer, because Charlie Austin was regularly scoring goals for Southampton, so they might miss their goals. That's why I didn't put them higher. Newcastle United, because of their manager change, I put them in 13th place. Otherwise I think Newcastle have a squad. If Rafa Benitez was still a manager, and with these signings Newcastle would have been pushing into the top 10, but without Rafa and with Steve Bruce, who has the worst record in terms of the biggest loss in a Tyne-Wear derby, and he was managing Sunderland at that time. He lost the biggest by a biggest margin against Newcastle, and now he's managing Newcastle United. It's so weird. I don't understand Newcastle's decision making, but Newcastle made decent signings. Joe Linton is a very, very good Hoffenheim striker. He's like a budget Firmino, if you like, for 38 million pounds. It's a big transfer. Finally Newcastle broke their transfer record. The last time they did it was for Michael Owen, believe it or not. And they also signed Ellen Saint-Maximin. He was linked with my favorite club Liverpool as well. They signed him for 18 million euros as well. And Jethro Willems, the former PSV Eindhoven left back, they signed him on loan from Frankfurt. So they have, and of course the big one, Andy Carroll, the prodigal son, returns to Newcastle. The former Newcastle Academy graduate comes on a free transfer back from West Ham. So I think Newcastle have the squad to finish comfortably in mid-table. The only worry is the manager, Steve Bruce. I don't rate him highly. I'm sorry guys, that's just my opinion. And Newcastle also lost Jose Perez to Leicester. His goals might be lacking, you know, they might lack his goals. Mohamed Diame also went to Al Ahly. In 12th place I have Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth are a decent side. They are playing good football under Eddie Howe, but I can't see them really breaking into the top 10 because defensively sometimes they just concede too many goals. Offensively they have a very good team with Harry Wilson, King, and also now you know, Harry Wilson on loan from Liverpool, Josh King, Callum Wilson, and other attacking players. And they also signed Danjuma from Club Brugge, Philip Billing from Huddersfield, Lloyd Kelly from Bristol. For a combined £50 million, they spent quite a decent money as well. They lost Tyrone Mings and Lys Mousset. These players weren't like regulars for Bournemouth, so they only got stronger. So it's going to be interesting how they do in the Premier League. I have them in 12th place. In 11th place, I have Watford. I think they will maybe push for top 10, but I think they will just miss out. The biggest transfer they did was to sign a very talented young right winger, Ismail Assar, who scored quite a few goals for Rennes. They signed him for 30 million euros. They also signed Craig Dawson, the experienced defender from West Brom, and João Prado from Fluminense, a very talented young player, and Danny Welbeck on a free transfer from Arsenal, which will be very interesting how he does, but they sold Luca Bacchio to Hertha Berlin. So I think Watford pretty much retained their strongest players, and they will finish in mid-table, no problem. Maybe even finish in the top 10. In 10th place, I have West Ham United. I think West Ham will be the last team to finish in the top 10. They signed Sebastian Haller. That is the biggest transfer for West Ham for 40 million euros from Frankfurt. And I have very high hopes for this guy. He scored a lot of goals. He lit up the Bundesliga last season. So if West Ham can put decent service onto Haller, he could score at least 10, maybe even 15 goals in the Premier League. They also signed Pablo Fornals from Villarreal, who is a very decent attacking midfielder from Spain. They signed him for 28 million euros. And otherwise, they didn't lose a lot of quality. They lost Arnautovic, but I think his goals will be replaced by Haller. They also lost Obiang, Edmilson Fernandez, Lucas Perez, Reece Oxford. I thought they would keep Oxford, who is a big talent, but they sold him for Augsburg. And of course, they lost their backup goalkeeper Adrian to Liverpool. West Ham, I think they need to sort out their defense, because attacking-wise, they play exciting attacking football. Lanzini will be fully fit for the season, so I expect West Ham to have a good season, but it depends where they will finish, probably on their defense, because offensively they will score goals with Haller in the team. And now it becomes tricky from here on. Leicester City, I put them in 9th place. Maybe I could have put them above Wolverhampton, but I think Leicester City will finish in 9th because, you know, Brendan Rodgers defensively is not really a very good organizer of a defense. Offensively, Leicester City will score a lot of goals, because defensively they will be probably conceding quite a few goals as well. I don't have them higher. They signed some big players, Jose Perez from Newcastle for like 30 million. Dennis Praet from Sampdoria, very good signing. And also, of course, they made the Yuri Tillemans loan permanent. And the biggest loss for Leicester is Harry Maguire. They didn't really replace him properly. They lost him for £80 million to Man United. So defensively, they got even weaker. And last season, they weren't like the best defense in the Premier League by a long shot. In 8th place, I have Wolverhampton Wanderers, or Wolves as everybody likes to call them. They will only finish in 8th place, I think not in the top 7 like last season, because the Europa League will take a lot out of them, and maybe even they could finish below Leicester because of the Europa League. I think they will comfortably make the group stage, and then they will have a lot of games in the first part of the season. They signed Raúl Jiménez permanently, which is a huge signing for them, because Raúl Jiménez was their top scorer last season with 13 goals. They also signed Pedro Neto, the right winger from Lazio. Cutrone is another big transfer for Wolverhampton. They are playing these transfer windows brilliantly. I think they have a clear plan, and Wolverhampton Wanderers want to break into the top 4 in the next like 5 years. They themselves admitted that it's a long project, and the way that they are going about it is very interesting, because I think they have a clear plan. They also signed Den Donker permanently from Anderlecht after his loan spell, but Cutrone and Jimenez and Jota up front could score a lot of goals. The big question is, how will their defense hold up? Because if they defensively they can tighten up even more, they can cause trouble to a lot of teams. I mean, even the top sides in the Premier League, and certainly I expect Wolves to go really far in the Europa League, because I think they have a very good team. And I think in 7th place, just missing out on the top 6, will be Everton. So I think the top 6 will be just like last season. I can't see even Everton, Leicester or Wolves breaking into the top 6. And Everton made very exciting transfers. The most exciting probably is Moise Kean, the very talented Italian striker. I don't understand why Juventus let him go, because he looks like an absolute baller for like 25 million pounds. I don't understand why they sold him, honestly, because he could light up the Premier League and score 10-15 goals. I won't be surprised if he does that. They also signed Alexis Iwobi from Arsenal, who is also a decent player. He cost 30 million euros. They signed Andre Gomes from Barcelona permanently, and Fabian Delph from Man City. And Everton didn't really lose big players. Idrissa Gueye is the only maybe like starting 11 player that they lost to Paris Saint-Germain for 30 million. They also sold Lookman to Leipzig, but he was on loan in Germany anyway, and Vlasic went to CSKA Moscow, and James McCarthy to Crystal Palace. But otherwise, you know, most of their starting 11 players stayed at Everton, and Everton are spending a lot of money every season, and sooner or later that will pay off, and I think that will be this season. So I expect them to be pushing the top 6 sides and maybe even finish ahead of someone like Man United. And in the 6th place I have Chelsea, and the reason for that is because of their transfer ban and because they sold Morata and Eden Hazard. That is a lot of goals taken out of Chelsea, and because of their transfer ban they could only sign Mateo Kovacic. Not sure how, aren't they banned from transfers, but there was a deal in the Real Madrid loan spell where they could make the signing permanent, and of course they did, and they spent 40 million pounds doing it. Otherwise they would have had no signings. But there are a lot of talented young players who were out on loan, especially Tammy Abraham, who scored well above 20 goals for Aston Villa. There is high hopes that he will score quite a few goals for Chelsea in the Premier League. But the big worry for Chelsea is who will replace Eden Hazard's goals. I mean, Olivier Giroud and Pedro and Willian, they can score goals, but nowhere near on the level of Eden Hazard. Bakayoko could be a good signing for them. Pulisic, I'm actually very underwhelmed by him. He could prove me wrong, but I don't expect Pulisic to have a really big impact in the Premier League. I mean, I don't expect him to score even 10 goals for Chelsea in the Premier League, but who knows? Maybe he will light up the Premier League and make me eat my words. But I think his progression has stalled a little bit at Dortmund, and that's why Dortmund sold him for big money. In 5th place I have Manchester United. So my prediction is that Man United and Chelsea won't finish in the top 4. The reason for that is Man United lost probably one of their best strikers, Lukaku. They sold him to Inter for like 60 million pounds or something like that. And yes, they signed Daniel James, Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire, but they didn't replace Lukaku's goals. I mean, they have Marcus Rashford and Greenwood as their only out-and-out strikers. And yes, Martial can play as a striker, but what if Rashford gets a knock or gets a serious injury? who will score enough goals for Man United? I mean, Harry Maguire, he improved Man United's defense. They were desperate to sign a proper defender, and Wan-Bissaka is probably much better than Ashley Young at right back. But still, I can't see Man United, especially with an inexperienced manager like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, really light up the Premier League and break into the top 4, because they will struggle to score enough goals for that. And their defense, I'm still not convinced about that. They still kept Phil Jones and Chris Smalling, and these guys are not really, in my opinion, good enough to play for Man United. In 4th place, I have Arsenal. I think Arsenal are the winners of the transfer window. In my opinion, they made the best transfers out of all the Premier League clubs. They signed Nicolas Pepe, who I really wanted to go to Liverpool, you guys know that. They signed Saliba from Saint-Etienne, very talented centre-back, but they loaned him back to Saint-Etienne for 1 season. They signed David Luiz and Kieran Tierney, 2 players that will make their defense better. And with Lacazette, Aubameyang and Nicolas Pepe, I expect Arsenal to score a lot of goals. Defensively, their defense is still not the best, and I think they will struggle here and there defensively, but offensively they are almost as good as Liverpool and Manchester City. I rate their attack, I mean Aubameyang, Lacazette and Nicolas Pepe, I rate that attack almost as highly as the Liverpool and the Man City attack. And they also signed Denis Ceballos on loan from Real Madrid, so that boosts their midfield options. And the only major player that they lost are Iwobi and Koscielny. The way Koscielny left was really baffling for me, especially the way that he pulled the Arsenal shirt off and revealed the Bordeaux shirt below that. Iwobi sold to Everton is also a transfer that I don't really understand. Iwobi was a very decent talent, but I think that was to fund the future of Arsenal, if you like. In 3rd place, I think Tottenham will finish in the Premier League this season. Tottenham signed Ndombele for a club record like £53 million. They also signed Ryan Sessegnon and got Giovanni Lo Celso on loan, plus Jack Clarke from Leeds United, a young English right winger. And they also didn't lose a lot of players. Kieran Trippier went to Atletico Madrid, which is a transfer that you thought would only happen on FIFA career mode, but I think Tottenham got a lot stronger. Ndombele is a player that they really needed. They have a very good backup left back or even a left winger in Ryan Sessegnon. And Lo Celso, I rate him very highly. He had a really good season for Real Betis, but I think he will take time to adapt to the Premier League. Tottenham will push Liverpool close for 2nd place, maybe even be involved in the title race for the first half of the season, but ultimately I think Tottenham's lack of a better defense will be their downfall. The big question, who will I think will win the Premier League title? I really want to say Liverpool, but that would be my heart talking instead of my head. If I analyze this objectively, I have to say Manchester City. So in my opinion, Liverpool will finish 2nd. I think that it will be almost as close as last season. I can see Liverpool running Man City almost as close as last season. Maybe this time it will be like 3 or 4 points between them. But ultimately, Man City's bigger and better squad will prevail. The only way I can see Liverpool overcoming Man City is if another big attacker gets injured for Man City, because now they have Leroy Sané out for 6 or 7 months, so Liverpool could take advantage if maybe Aguero gets a long-term injury for out for 6 months or 3 months or something like that, or even if Raheem Sterling, I think he is the key player for Man City, if Raheem Sterling gets injured, maybe Liverpool can overtake them. But it's the same is true to Liverpool as well. If one of Liverpool's front 3 players get injured, there is no way we will keep up with Manchester City, and that's a worry. And also Liverpool didn't make any big signings. They signed Adrian as a backup goalkeeper, and now it will be important because Alisson got injured in the first game week. And they signed the 2 young players, Van den Berg, Harvey Elliott. But other than that, Liverpool have the same squad as last year, but we have Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, Adam Lallana, Joe Gomez, Shaqiri, Naby Keita all back fully 100%. That makes Liverpool's squad a little bit stronger. Also, Ryan Brewster is a very good backup option on the bench. Our squad is still not as good as Man City. I just have to say that objectively, that's the truth in my opinion, and the best squad normally wins the Premier League title, especially if the manager is Pep Guardiola. And what is also crazy and shows what Liverpool and all the other Premier League clubs are up against is that nobody bats an eyelid when Man City drops £60 million on a fullback, £60 million on a defensive midfielder. And it's like the most natural thing in the world nowadays. Every other club's fans would go berserk, crazy. They would celebrate for days signing these big players. But for Man City fans, it's just another day being a Man City fan. They are spending crazy money every single season. Joao Cancelo and Rodri are two players who I think improve Man City's squad massively, because the one hope that I had is that Fernandinho is now 35 years old and they will struggle without him. But they signed Rodri, who is almost as good as Fernandinho now. And they also signed Joao Cancelo, who is a better right back than Danilo. But it's crazy to think that they have Kyle Walker and Joao Cancelo, probably two of the best 5 right backs in world football, and they have both of them. Like, wow, just wow. Man City's squad is like perfect. They have no weakness basically. Maybe the left back Zinchenko, but if Mendy comes back, they also have a very good left back there. But other than that, their whole squad is almost perfect. So I think Man City will win the league, probably with 95 points or something like that again. I really hope I'm wrong, but that's my Premier League predictions video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know what do you think in the comments below, and thanks for watching. See you later guys. Goodbye.